Hello guys, Malagant here. I'll be trying to talk about SpellSlinger Healer today. Basically, I will be giving so much information. Most of the information will be repetitive and will be already known by so many viewers. But I'm hoping that basically, at least here and there will be some information that is going to be useful for pretty much everyone. That being said, the information will be really basic from the roots, and I'll be talking about every single spell. So you might want to navigate through the video if you don't want to be, if you don't want me to be blabbering on the screen for like 30 minutes. But if you can tolerate that, be my guest, and I'm really appreciative. Let's just jump into it then. So basically, when I hit 50, it was the first time that I tried healing. So I didn't heal at all pre-leveling. And then, you know, I have seen this unique healing spell and I thought, oh, it's the quick draw ability, just like in healing. So I took it to my first button, I tried it, and I never used it again. This ability needs to be fixed. This is in my opinion. So is the rest of the video. You can judge it, obviously. You can use it if you like, and most of the abilities in Wildstar needs to be used by the taste. So what I mean is basically, if you're comfortable, especially as a healer, if you're comfortable with healing with this and that, you should be playing as that, because it is important that you keep your group alive. No matter what I say, obviously I will be pointing out what is shining in what type of situations or what kind of encounters, but it is for you to judge and it is for you to use whichever ability you're comfortable playing with and used playing with. You should be playing with that till you are used to the best one. Obviously, I'll try to give what is, in my opinion, is the best case scenario in most cases. And runic healing will never shine, like ever. Even if you're under geared, even if you're perfect geared, will never shine. Just not only turning towards the player, but also targeting the player, and then moving is also a disadvantage. And also, it also has a telegraph. It's just I don't want to use full language here, but it is so bad. This needs to be changed. Just make it another telegraph, in my opinion, then it's going to be fine. Make it like five players, keep the healing about the same, then it's going to be fine. So runes of protection, what I would like to use runes of protection with. If I'm under geared, if I'm doing dailies as an off-spec DPS, I would like to put it on my DPS spec. Other than that, the only reason that I would like to use runes of protection is when it is, basically when it is needed to put an interrupt armor on my group. Now, the telegraph is already a little hectic. If you are familiar with SpellSlinger Healer, the telegraphs are obviously thinner than the other classes, except the sustain and the healing salve, which is our bread and butter when it comes to AoE healing, but they are not as efficient when it comes to 5-man healing. So you would like to, you know, cast your healing torrents and cast your void, what was it called again? Cast your Vitality Burst or your Dual Fire to be keeping your, or maybe Void Spring, to keeping your group alive when it comes to dungeon healing. And most of the viewers will probably be starting from the dungeons, I'm assuming. So sustain and healing salve is not going to be as shiny as in raid encounters. But what I would like to say is basically, since the telegraphs are really hectic, I really don't want to put one more spell that is going to be causing troubles with my movements and my positioning and the positioning of the group. Now, since I touched this positioning thing and the telegraphs of the SpellSlinger, let me just add like brackets here and say that when it comes to SpellSlinger Healer, the most disadvantage that I have seen, the most ridiculous disadvantage that I have seen was in raid encounters. I wasn't able to heal my tank because there was other players going left and right in front of my telegraph. When I say smart heals, that means that the healing is picking up the target that is the lowest amount of health at that point, or the largest amount of portion that is missing the health, okay? So when I say, like, sustain is a smart heal, for example, because you will be able to read on sustain, I think it's tier 4. Okay, so tier 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and it says tier 4 major upgrade, heal prioritize allies with low health. This is really interesting when it comes to this game, because when you cast your healing turret, it heals 4 targets in front of you, so you are the 5th one. It will always stick once on you, and it will partially heal 4 targets in front of you. I cannot say if it's picking up the first targets. I think it is picking up the first 4 targets in front of you. So if there are 4 players in a raid encounters, this happens a lot. And if there are 4 players in front of you, and then your tank, the heal won't be receiving the tank. Same goes for runes of protection now. So there's already the healing torrent, which is our bread and butter when it comes to, you know, burst heal. That is already like putting me on some type of risky positions even. I have a lot of movement like problems during the raid. I did die here and there just because of the fact that I would like to, you know, just take everyone out of my telegraph and just put the tank out there, you know, so that I put myself on harm's way. But that happens every now and then, but you can play around with it, obviously, since you have abilities such as Gate or CC Break. We will jump right into it after. But as I said, Runes of Protection, the only reason that I would use this is because of the grants interrupt armor. If I would like to grant an interrupt armor not only to myself but also to my group, again it's only 4 members, then I would probably go with Runes of Protection. Other than that, I wouldn't really favor this ability. Now about Vitality Burst. I'm usually picking either Vitality Burst or Dual Fire. I should say that most of the time it is Dual Fire. So it is my first ability, it is my filler if you take it. Most of the players would be using Runic Healing as a filler to reserve some focus. I would be using Dual Fire not only because I'm geared up, but also, as I said, Runic Healing is not good enough for me in my opinion. The spell is in my opinion broken. It's just not worth it. Worth the trouble, I mean, the trouble that you're going through. So the Dual Fire and then the Vitality Bursts. What do I take? Well, most of the time, you can go with both of them, obviously, but most of the time, as I said, I'm picking either one of them, and most of the time it's Dual Fire. The only reason that I'm picking Vitality Burst is there's going to be some type of encounter that is going to be, you know, AoE healing that is continuous, not my sustain or my healing salve or my voice spring is enough. I would like to feel 1 more AoE healing. Also, that can be only 5 mana also, that can be used in dungeons too. Then it needs to be these 3 not enough, but also yourself kind of thing. Because the only difference between Vitality Burst and Dual Fire is not only Vitality Burst is healing more, but also it's healing you. The Dual Fire is never healing you. So basically, as you can see, there is no healing numbers that are coming out once it explodes. Let's put this over there and then cast a Vitality Burst, and then heal it. You see 9k crit from the Vitality Burst. It's obviously a lot more. When I use Vitality Burst, I usually use it either tier 7. I don't find that the tier 8 is that efficient. Or tier 4. Tier 4 is kind of a must, and I would most of the time try to cast it with my spell surge, however you want to call it. Obviously, if you don't have any, it is still worth casting the Vitality Burst, but most of the time, as I said, it is worth to cast it with your spell surge. Now, I will also be jumping into something else, since I touched the Vitality Burst here. There is some shining thing called Precasting in SpellSlinger healers. Basically, this is where we shine most of the time, especially when it comes to group healing. There's going to be encounters, especially in the raid encounters. You will be able to go wipe, go wipe, go wipe, and then say, okay, the raid is going to be taking damage just now. So when that happens, you will be basically wanting to heal just now also. And you are capable of doing that. Like, let's assume that the sustain, you want to finish casting the sustain, especially at the end of the damage that is taken. So basically what you want to do is basically cast the sustain, which is called precast, and hold it like this. And then once the damage received, you release it instantly so that everyone is healed up. You will also be shining on the effective healing with this. So the other good part about Vitality Burst is also it is precasted. So you hold it, and then the group takes damage, and then you release it. So this is the best part when it comes to Vitality Burst, and I also touch Dual Fire. There's another thing that as I said, most of the time I'm going with Dual Fire. And the only reason that I'm picking the other one is obviously because there's a little more healing needed than those 3 spells that I'm most of the time using. If those 3 spells are sufficient, more than enough, then I don't really touch Vitality Burst at all. I just help with DPS a little with Dual Fire and use it as a filler. Astral Infusion, I did use it before. I don't use it. I don't plan to use it anymore. But I did use it because I was undergeared, my tank was undergeared, and we were doing silver dungeons. Basically, the amount of healing that the tank was needing, it was just out of control sometimes. It was just insane. I was like, everything in cooldown, I wanted one more thing to cast on him, and Astral Infusion was something good to put in back then. So basically, it was just another spell to use. But I'm not planning to use it anymore because it is 25 seconds of cooldown, 26 seconds cooldown, and you can reduce it to tier 4 by 5 seconds on me. That's a little questionable. I mean, make it like 15 seconds reduction or something. I would still question it. The reason is because there's only 8 spells in your arsenal, and if you put something like a 30-second cooldown, that makes it 7 spells that are available to you every 30 seconds gaps, if you know what I mean. So to min-max things, you would like to have 8 abilities that are, you know, repeatable, so that you keep on casting something, so that you fill every single global cooldown with something, even though it would be a little tough to control focus, especially at the start. After the amount of time that you gain the experience, you will be doing a lot better, trust me. Healing Salve, most of the time I'm using it just because I like the ability. It's not efficient almost in any cases. The only case that Healing Salve is shining really brightly is like Omna, the puddles on the ground. The puddles, not the puddles, obviously the stupid goo on the ground. All right, excuse me for the break, but the goo underground is, you know, the ticking continuous damage. Healing Salve is shining so hard there, especially the tier 4. So whenever there's an encounter that is making your group, but it needs to be group, just one target is not going to be making Healing Salve efficient. And tier 8 is a little okayish also. There's not so many encounters in Wildstar, just like in Warcraft. You know, there's going to be such an explosion that everyone is going to be remaining with 1k HP. If there's going to be any kind of ability like that in the nearest future, or maybe there is in DS, I haven't seen it yet. But on GA especially so far, I didn't really see, you know, just everyone surviving by the Nico Thief. I didn't really see that so far. So I would like to use tier 8 in such a situation. But other than that, I would like to use tier 4 if there's a continuous tick on a group, including five players or more. So Dual Fire, we already touched it. Healing Torrent is a must to run. It's your second filler, which is the biggest and burstiest heal. It's the best part of our SpellSlingers. It can be critting up to 20k, 25k I have seen on a tank. I have literally seen a 26k crit, I think, yesterday on an engineer tank. Maybe they're receiving more heals. Right now I have about 2767. Obviously you will be having lower. You can start silver dungeons about 1.8k support power. And this will be the, you know, the focus burner kind of thing. You want to cast this every time that is out of cooldown. And the most efficient way to do it is to obviously watch the Surge Drain debuff, this one. Because it is removing your focus and it stacks up, I think. I think it was something like that. I'm sorry if I'm giving misinformation, just never mind it then. Either way, I'm most of the time running it tier 3. If there's going to be any kind of information, if there's going to be any type of encounter where I will be single target healing or I'll be running a dungeon, I can consider running it tier 7-ish. I don't really consider running it tier 8, like almost never, because other things are usually better. And you know, the tier 4 or the 8 upgrade requires 5 points. I would rather get something like this and that. You know, those small gaps instead of the big bunch of the tier 4 or tier 8. So Healing Salve is a must, as I said. Like almost everyone that is healing with SpellSlinger must use this ability, and it is the focus drainer and it is the burstiest heal that we have. It's much more burstier than Vitality. Now, when it comes to Healing Salve, I should also bring up the disadvantage of being a SpellSlinger healer. Especially this is going to be about raid encounters. when it comes to raiding with SpellSlinger, there's this telegraph, you know, drama that is going on. Basically, you're healing. I mean, your heals are not smart, and you're healing the only 4 targets that are in front of you, and the first 4 targets that your heal touches. So if you're trying to heal your tank in a 20-man raid, I don't even want to consider this in 40-man. Basically, if there are 4 players in front of you while your cast is almost finished, or just, you know, people are just passing by, they will be soaking your heal and the tank won't be getting this heal. This goes with protection also, as I explained earlier. And this is the most dramatic situation I have faced with SpellSlinger healers so far. But this only happens in raids. Obviously, for dungeons, you already heal 5 targets, including yourself, and there's only 5 targets anymore. However, pets might be able to soak it. I'm not sure. There's some really buggy situations when it comes to pets in this game, anyway. But I'm pretty sure it will be fixed enough soon. I mean, either way. So, Healing Torrent is not a smart cast, is not like Tier 4 Sustain where it grabs the low targets, low health targets. It always hits the first 4 players in front of you. So you would like to position yourself such that you would like to heal, at least you're making sure that the members that you would like to heal are one of those first 4 members. When it comes to dungeon healing, obviously, you won't be caring about this much. But when it comes to raiding, I did put myself in harm's way before just because, you know, I had to take myself out of the raid position and heal a certain amount of player or someone in particular. Either way, the most typical build that I'm using for raid healing is this. So in most cases, I'm using this type of ability. There's Regenerative Pulse that I really like, but it strictly plays a role when it comes to single target healing and single target alone. You would like to run it with Tier 4, it's a must. You can run this in dungeons as well, and it's going to be needing just a little coordination. It cannot be well coordinated in pugs, but if you're doing a silver dungeon with your group from the guild and you're, you know, in TeamSpeak, Skype, or Ventrilo, what have you, you'll be able to coordinate. And the only thing that your members, your friends, needs to know when it comes to Regenerative Pulse is when you cast it, they should not be inside the telegraph. I know this sounds stupid, but the ability is. So telegraph is really thin and it's really long range. It's, if I'm not mistaken, it's about the same range as Healing Torrent, yes. Yeah. So basically what this does is when it's Tier 4, it reduces the cooldown of it to 2 seconds, basically. The normal second is, okay, it reduces to 4 seconds apparently, and the normal is 9 seconds cooldown. So when you're running it with Tier 4, and if you hit only 1 target, in this case we didn't hit anything, I'm assuming. This is not healing yourself either, by the way. So this is strictly for healing a tank. Right, as you have seen here, instead of 9 seconds, we had a 4-second cooldown. Just watch it. So we are healing only 1 target, and the target is being healed by a burst amount. It's an instant cast also. You just cast it and it's like 8k heal, bam. It's really good. It crits for like 16k. It's unreal tank healing actually. But the only good part about it is that it is a single target heal, and if there is more than 1 target in your telegraph at that given time, your spell will be going into a cooldown of 9 seconds. So the points that you have spent inside the ability will be complete waste, and basically you will be doing it wrong. So when you want to play with Regenerative Pulse, is basically you know that you and your tank is basically, you know, standing right next to each other, or, you know, there's no one else standing in that line, and this is all possible, and it can be coordinated. This is a shiny thing for dungeon runs. You'll be able to heal your tank insanely, even like no matter how undergeared he is, just because of the rotation that you will be having between the healing torrent and then regenerative pulse. And if you would like, you can also put Astral Infusion in there. You will be healing insane on the one target, and that is your tank most of the time. But yet again, you need to know that basically only one that needs to receive this heal is only one target, and that one target alone. All of the party members should know this, so that you can keep your cooldown in 2 seconds all the time, well, 4 seconds, whatever. But this does not heal yourself, as I said. This is just strict one target healing, except yourself. I do use this on Therax, on the convergence fights. I heal Therax and we just go there, you know, I keep my tank alive and dispel him, and it's such a no-brainer. I just sit there and cast this all day long and he's already surviving. It's so easy to do this. But other than that, I most of the time don't run Regenerative Pulse because I'm geared enough to keep the tanks, and the tanks that I'm playing with is geared enough to keep themselves alive without this. But as I said, if you're under geared, you might consider running with Regenerative Pulse and Astral Infusion instead of something like a Dual Fire maybe, or Healing Salve most of the time. Healing Salve is something really, you know, just a taste, kind of. Like it's not really required to run it. So yet again, when it comes to Void String, I don't think I need to be explaining this. This is a good ability, obviously, if the fights are a little stationary. This is not a smart heal. It's 5 targets, if I'm not wrong. Okay, actually, me and Vecna, the other SpellSlinger healer, we are still not sure if this is 5 targets or not. I think it's 5 targets, and I also think it's not even smart healing, which means, you know, it's just healing random targets all the time that is inside. But still, if the fight is stationary, this is always worth the cast. And most of the time I did use Void Spring in pretty much everything so far. Even if the fight is like not stationary, I know when the damage is coming, I can just cast this on someplace, and when the damage lands, we will be healing up again. So, as I said, the most important parts, well, I won't be explaining sustain either, but the most important part about the explanation so far that I've made must be the precast. Please try to abuse this. This is the shining part of SpellSlinger. The precast of sustain especially, you will know when the damage is going to be taken by pretty much everyone. So you cast it and hold it. If you're not helping with DPS, if you're not helping with interruption, if you're not helping with cleansing, what you should be doing is holding sustain instead of looking at people. Hold the sustain, and when they take damage, you release it, and everyone is full, everyone is comfortable. Now, for the utility spells, I'll be going really briefly. You don't want to use Arcane Shock most of the time. Medics are shining a lot better when it comes to Purge. Void Pact is only worth it when you're in raid encounters. It's not worth it in dungeons. If you would like to push some things, you can try it out. But most of the time, it's not worth it. It's not worth it to give points into Void Pact unless everyone is stacked up in a raid encounter. Even in a raid encounter, if people are doing several jobs like conversions, if they're not stacked up, then giving points into Void Pact is not worth it either. That is, in my opinion, again. The whole video is in my opinion, but take it as you will. Gate, when you're running dungeons, you would like to put tier 4 into it because you don't want to rely on other players most of the time. Obviously, there'll be a lot of interruption failures in the tanks, whichever you group go with. Till you are used to the group, there will be here and there are a lot of interruption mistakes. Interrupt, you'll be able to hear people screaming for it. You will be able to help them with 2 interruption armor with gates. Obviously, the only negative part is that it's a blink, so you might be putting yourself into harm's way. It's really important that you do interrupt. The interrupt does not fail once you gate, because if you gate and the interrupt still failed, you know, someone else didn't help you, then you will probably die because the spell will go through and you're like right next to the boss or the mob, whatever you wanted to interrupt. But regardless of tier 4, tier 1, tier 8, whatever you take, going with gate is most of the time great because it's a blink. I most of the time go with gate. The Void Slip is your CC break. There's going to be encounters like tether kind of encounters, which is going to tether you, or there's going to be encounters which is going to be subduing you, throwing your weapon on the ground. You might want to run, well, for subdue I never run it because of the Trackmaster. I don't know if you don't know it, Trackmaster. You should get it with subdue. So it shows it. It's called Trackmaster and it shows the weapon. It marks it, you know. I'll show the marking. So you have probably seen it on the streams, but so you can open Trackmaster. We're getting out of. You can open Trackmaster, and so yeah, it marks the weapon like this on the floor. So you can close the targets like this, so it doesn't show anything but your focus and subdue. So when it's shiny like this, it just shows your subdue weapon on the floor and then your focus target. So if I focus this NPC, it will be showing me, and then I can clear it. Either way, back to the subject. I was saying for Void Slip, I am usually using Void Slip just to be getting out of a tricky situation like Feathers. Again, on convergence fights on GA, I'm using it because there's this egg that is causing a lot of havoc if you're out of position. Another disadvantage of SpellSlinger Healer is you will be out of position most of the time, because the positioning is really important. You cannot really go mindlessly and stand in the middle of everyone, and then you want to heal the target that you want to heal. You will be healing the target. No, you will be most of the time putting yourself in harm's way, trying to heal your tank, trying to get out of position. You will be most of the time chasing someone, trying to get Void back, because you will start with trying to heal people, then that will be ticked. You will be starting with trying to deck the most out of Void Pact, then that will be ticked. You'll start to try to make the most out of your focus. It's never enough for you to be a better player, and it should never be. So you will be trying to push it and push it and push it, and every time you try to push it, as a SpellSlinger, you'll be putting yourself in harm's way. Now, let's jump right into the Gather Focus. This is my bread and butter also. Never unslot it. I'm running Gather Focus with the amp that is called, was it this one? I think it's this one, right? Yeah, Focus Stone. That is creating a Focus Stone when I use the Gather Focus. Now, I'm putting myself in a harm's way, as I said. I cannot use it for the rest 30 seconds, but Gather Focus is a stationary cast. Yesterday, I died at Omna because of this. I got greedy. I had like 80% focus, and I still wanted to cast Gather Focus because it was out of cooldown, and there's a beam coming behind me, and I'm like, it's fine, I'll just blink through it, and I die. So I was really greedy. So you do put yourself in harm's way with this ability also, because you cannot cast it while you're moving. Once you cast it, you gain certain amount of focus, but it reduces the healing that you are going to be doing for the next 6 seconds, if I'm not wrong, or 4, something like that. But the point is being made, and so most of the time, once you know the encounter, you know when you're going to be casting Gather Focus. You know when the group is going to be needing a lot of heals, then you won't be casting it. You'll be getting prepared. Having the Focus Stone is never for the effect of healing on yourself. It's only for the effect of getting focus up. So Void Pact is a must in raid encounters. It's not a necessity in dungeons if you would like. Other than this, the others are looking, well, obviously there's the Purify, but I never put any points in it. So if you want to cleanse this spell, Purify is the way to go. But I usually use either Purify, Void Pact, or Void Slip in an encounter. If I would like to run one of these, then I most of the time remove my Void Cell. But as I said, my normal dungeon run would be something like this. And the ability points would be these. And by the way, this is Sassy Builds, the add-on. And my normal raid would be something like this, but these are normal, as I said. Like, the encounters just changes all the time, and I put something in. And then if I want, like, CC Break, I would probably remove Healing Salve. Other than this, there's the Affinity, which I never use, but I don't use it because I explained to you earlier, if I'm healing only one target, I would just go with Regenerative Pulse, and it's already, like, more than enough healing. That's all. So let's jump into the amps, I would say. This is the amp build that I'm using. I'm really poor, like extremely poor when it comes to game, because I just like to raid nowadays. I don't do anything else. I don't even do the dailies. If you're watching this stream, I'm like most of the time playing Dota and stuff other than raiding. So I'm constantly losing gold. Um, but obviously you would like to buy amp upgrades and get more points, but this is the basic raiding one. Now, on raiding, Void Pact is a must, as I said. Like, Void Pact is one of the reasons that you're in the raid in the first place. You really need to look at it that way. And you need to use it every single cooldown and rotate with the other SpellSlingers. Your DPS SpellSlingers should run it also, in my opinion, unless there's something going on. The other points that I'm running is looking like this. Like, the only change that you might want to do here, like when it comes to taste, is you might want to remove focus recovery and 1 point from focus cost here. That's going to give you 4 points. And you might want to put it on augmented armor. Now, I just realized I'm also missing burst power because I'm really poor. Sorry for that. Burst power is a good spell also. Again, to take burst power, you might want to take these 3 off and take this one off and put it to burst power, so you'll be having even more spell power when you crit. And when it comes to raiding, I would say this is good for raiding, not for dungeons so much. You'll be casting sustain like all the time, like left and right. And it will be critting, obviously, because like this, it's hitting 10 targets, including yourself. And it will be critting most of the time. Either way, when it crits, it returns 6 spell power back. And you have 100 in total. If it crits twice, then it's 12. So it's really good. If you keep up... just keep on casting sustain, you might even be able to, with a certain amount of gear, you might even be able to, you know, keep your spell power up at all times. Who knows? Other than that, the shiny ones are basically the ones that I have already given. But don't look at these points as waste. The cooldown reduction is a must anyway, but the dash regeneration, you'll be dashing up so much. The dash is this by the way, obviously. You'll be dashing up so much, especially in the raids. Other than this, basically, this is the amp that I would go. As I said, I would just change and put burst power. Some people like augmented armor, but I don't really like it so much. I would probably go with burst armor instead of these 4 points. So, like this. Okay, so when it comes to dungeons, let's assume that you're really undergeared and you would like to do dungeons and you don't give a shit about Void Pacts. Am I missing something? That's 6 points, yeah? Alright, I'll be running with this. If I'm really undergeared, okay, I'm new. I bought the items from the auction house to get the maximum amount of support power. I tried to rune the ones that are worthy. If I'm running veteran dungeons, veteran adventure is fine. You don't need to rune all of your gear. Veteran dungeons, please rune your gear. It's so important. It's really important. It's going to be giving you such a boost. Don't play with the players that are not runing. I mean, I know I'm being mean, but don't play with them. Like, those runes are there for you to slot them. And you can slot them easily. You have gained a lot of rune fragments during the way while you're leveling. You have gained that gold. You need to spend that gold and become the maximum so that you can try to progress. Every wipe, you can blame it on someone. when their runes are basically not slotted, you know. When the DPS is not enough, the DPS runes might be blamed. So basically, it is really important to have all your runes up. I'm getting tired a little, sorry, excuse me for it, but yeah. So this would be the one that I'm running with, probably. Yeah. Let me see what kind of I came up with the other time I made it. I have Holy Roller. No, not really. No, not really. Okay, when I'm under geared, I would most likely go with Desperation instead of Holy Roller, 100%. Because under geared means more spamming means less focus, Desperation means more focus. So this is why I would prefer this kind of build over this kind of build. But as I said, don't run this build during raid encounters. You will be performing much better, obviously, with your heals. But Void Pact is a must because it doesn't have you know, the cap. It just targets everyone, and basically if you're 20 players, the assault power is increased by that amount. So Void Pact is really good for raiding, but for dungeons it's not really that efficient. Okay, I think I'll be stopping after showing the add-ons that I'm running. I'll be making a lot more videos. I might even consider making, you know, how to heal this instance and that instance, and maybe even the encounters. But right now I'm like into doing other stuff, but I'll be doing it. So if you enjoyed it, please, you know, just follow the channel or something. I don't know. I'm kind of new to this, but you can especially contact me from Twitch if you would like to. You can contact me there, and I'll be streaming most of the time. Even if I'm playing another game, you can ask. You can go ahead and ask about Wildstar. It doesn't really matter, even if I'm playing another game during that time. You can ask anything you like about SpellSlinger, basically, except DPS. Obviously, I have no clue what I'm doing when it comes to DPS. Either way. So the add-ons that I really like running is the sassy builds to change my builds as fast as possible and then save them, obviously. It's such an easy thing to do. I kind of like running the grid, and I am running Razor plates, if I'm not wrong, for the nameplates. I am not using Galaximeter. I don't like trash talking, but it reduces FPS, and I'm obsessed with my FPS. I don't like using the BG plates, is it? It rapes my FPS, literally. I'm obsessed with my FPS, again. Reload your UI, guys. Like, most of the time, after every fight, when you res up, get used to reloading your UI. It increases your FPS by insane amounts, because the game is not optimized, the UI is not optimized. I don't know, this is my explanation. For whatever the reason, the game starts running sloppier the further you play through, and reloading UI fixes it somehow. And then it gets bad again, you reload the UI again. So after every death, I have the habit of just reloading the UI, and I already proved it. I was running at 30 FPS, now I'm at 70. So, other than this, I don't think I'm running any special add-on, to be honest. You have seen the UI is a little more smaller because of the UI scale. I think you are able to do it from the interface, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, it's a 080, that's why the UI is smaller. But that's about it. As I said, this is grid, this is Razor plates, this is sassy builds, and I'm using Trackmaster also, but only for the subdue and focus. So if I would like to find a specific tank at a specific phase of an encounter, then I focus that target before the fight starts. And we fight it, and the phase 4 starts, and I know where to go instantly because my tank is there. So this is the only reason I'm using Trackmaster. Thanks a lot for joining. I'm hoping at least some of the information was useful for pretty much everyone. Obviously, most of the information was repetitive, as I said, and simplified and basic. I don't know. But I did try to explain. I'll actually add something else, something really specific and simple. Spell power, when I would like to use it, I always spell power sustain, always spell power void spring. If you're running runic healing, never spell power runic healing, please. Just never mind this. Just if you would like to run with runic healing, just play with it, but know that it's not efficient. Most of the time I don't spell power the dual fire because I use it as a filler. just like runic healing, and I use it to just DPS instead of, so why not? But if it's a really easy encounter, I don't even bother with spell power that much. I just open it whenever it's ready, and it closes by itself whenever it's over. But when you want to min-max and when you're progressing, you might want to get used to your spell power control also. So how to do that is basically get to know your spells and what they're getting from spell surge, spell power. Sustain always, Void Spring pretty much always, Healing Torrent most of the time, I wouldn't say always. Dual Fire, if you're running it like me, most of the time for deeps, then not really, you don't really need to spell power it. Healing Salve, most of the time yes, but if you're running Healing Salve in the first place, as I said, instead of Healing Salve you might consider Vitality Burst, you know, or something else. And Gate, as I said, tier 4. Don't forget that it removes 2 interruption armor. Other than that, there's not much else that I would like to add right now, at least right now. Okay, so it is impossible for me, guys, it's impossible for me to, you know, include everything in one video. I'll be making more videos as I remember to add more things, and they will obviously be a lot smaller than this one. But the most important part is that I tried to cover as much things that I think that are important, and I'll be making more videos about how to heal this and that also, as I said. So if you would like them, you can just subscribe or something. Let me apologize about the video because I don't like editing. I don't like the robotness of, you know, just jumping scenes and speaking robotic also. So I do like to just record it as I stream kind of. So I just record it and speak through, and I don't really take any notes either. So it was a little sloppy, and I did blabber quite a lot, I believe, make some here and there language mistakes. Sorry for that, excuse me for it, and I hope you enjoyed, and see you later on.